And I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the land that Queen's University is on. So we're on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples, and their existence on the land predates any colonial settlements. And so we're really grateful to be able to live, learn and play on this land. And for me, this is particularly germane when we're talking about international programming and exchange, because we're talking about people who are moving between countries, between lands. And for me, at least, I think it's interesting to think about who has the privilege to be able to do that. What are the laws and regulations that allow people to do that? Who has access to them? And who's inviting you to the lands as well? So for myself, I consider myself an uninvited guest on these lands. And I recognize that certainly my identity is particularly kind of complicated and wrapped up in this. As you may hear from my accent, I'm British, and so to be on colonized lands means, I think, that I have a particular responsibility to work towards truth and reconciliation, which is what we're hoping everyone in Canada will be doing. And we invite you to join this process when you do come to campus. So in today's session, I want to talk about the safe return to campus. So campus has actually been open during this fall semester. So we've actually ironed out a lot of kinks about returning to campus during the pandemic. I want to talk about finalizing your course enrollment and then beginning your term. And then you may see this fourth block of completing your term and be thinking, that's far, far off in your future. And yes, it is, but also the next few months are going to fly by. So we just think it's important to share some information with you now about what that will look like. So in terms of safe return to campus, we'll be talking about vaccine requirements and your pre-departure checklist. In terms of finalizing enrollment, we'll be talking about what that timeline looks like, how to navigate what we call open enrollment, and what those deadlines are, and then just go through a few common questions. And then for beginning your term, we're going to be looking at your arrival checklist, talking a little bit about quarantine and classes, how to orient yourself, and also how to access different types of supports at Queen's. And then in terms of completing your term, we'll just be looking actually mainly at exams and transcripts. So just a quick note, and for those of you who just joined us, we are recording this session. We do invite you to use the chat box to ask any questions, and we'll hold most of those questions to the end unless I think there's a particular question that fits in well with where we are, but hopefully the different slides will address the questions that you have. And we also do invite you to talk with us as well. So we have limited appointments, but actually we have a Zoom room that's running for the next week or so of the semester, which will be starting up again in January, and you don't actually have to make an appointment for that. So the big topic on everyone's lips at the moment still is the pandemic. So we continue to work closely with Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox and Addington, so that's KFL and A Public Health. And so Frontenac, Lennox and Addington are regions that surround Kingston. At the moment, we have just over 300 active cases in the region, which is an increase on the recent past. The good news is that we have a very strong medical officer here in Kingston, and also the provincial medical officer has a lot of experience in dealing with pandemics. So although the case count is relatively high for Kingston, we have a lot of compliance in terms of mask wearing. We have a very high vaccination rate at Queen's, which is something like 98.5%, if not higher, between staff and students as well. And like I said, we have been open on campus, and that has been running smoothly during the fall. So we wanted to be transparent with you about those statistics, but also to reassure you that we are working hard to make sure that you're safe when you are on campus. One of the effects, though, of the pandemic this semester, and I think will be likely next semester as well, is that some departments may be open on odd hours or days. They may not necessarily be open doing regular work hours, which is typically from 8:30 to 4:30. So you may wish to just contact the department before going to them, just to make sure that they are open. So here you can just see some of the measures that we've taken to ensure that we do have a safe campus. So Queen's has an app that you can download on Android and also Apple, which is the Secure app. And that actually provides a lot of great information about safety and accessibility around campus. But part of that app's features is an assessment tool that you're required to do each day that you come onto campus. And essentially, you have to answer questions to do with monitoring your symptoms. And if you don't have any symptoms, then you're allowed on campus. But if you answer yes to any of the questions, then you aren't allowed on campus. And we really ask you to respect that process and to keep yourself and also your peers safe as well. So please make sure that you download that app, and you should just be able to type in Secure, SEQURE, into the Play Store or Apple Store, and you'll find it that way. In terms of COVID tests, yeah, there may be times that you think that you have, you may be worried, and so testing is available. We do ask that you follow the guidance around testing, which at the moment is to self-isolate after you've had the test, and until you get the results, and hopefully negative. Typically at the moment in Kingston, it's taking about 24 hours to get tests turned around, so that the impact on that is hopefully the impact on your day-to-day life is minimal. One thing that came out when we were talking about COVID and coming back onto campus was ventilation. So Queen's does have enhanced ventilation protocols to make sure that air is not stagnant and that the virus is not trapped anywhere, and also enhanced cleaning measures in public spaces as well. And you'll see lots of hand sanitizer stations all around. Masks are required while you're indoors, including in classrooms, lecture halls, and office spaces as well. So please do bring your mask with you and wear that when you are inside. And that means having a mask that covers your nose and your mouth, not just the mouth. And then in terms of the facilities that we have available, dining and food services are operating for the most part as normal, with some limits on numbers. And there are some additional protocols that you have to go through if you are wishing to dine in. So there will be a confirmation of proof of enrollment that you'll get into your Queen's email, and you will have to show that if you're dining. But don't worry, the staff are very friendly, and they'll give you a reminder when you're there paying for your food. Athletics and recreation are preparing to be fully operational this winter, but I think some details are still being ironed out there. And obviously libraries are open and functional, so that you have spaces to study and do some additional learning and research. So in terms of vaccine requirements, we require, or Queen's University requires, all faculty, staff, students and visitors to campus to be fully vaccinated. So if you're on this call, you should have already received an email from the main Faculty of Arts and Science office asking you to submit your proof of vaccination. And I believe that everyone has done this now, so thank you. And you would also need that for travel to Canada. But I just want to share this as well, because like I said, we do have very high vaccination compliance rate. So you can be sure that your peers and staff and faculty here are taking the vaccine seriously. Obviously, we know that being vaccinated doesn't mean that you can't get the virus, but it does dramatically reduce the impact it can have. And so, and obviously, with the high levels of vaccination we have, that's a really great tool in preventing the impact being too dramatic. So in terms of your pre-departure preparation, so I think everyone will have done the first one, so receive your vaccination and submit proof. Do just check on the Canada, the Government of Canada website about the accepted vaccinations. So actually they did just add some vaccinations to the list of approved vaccinations in Canada, including the Sinopharm vaccine. Make sure that you've received your study permit if you need one to come here to Canada. If you have any questions about study permits, the best people to talk to are our international study advisors, and they are regulated immigration advisors, so they can give you a lot more kind of information than we can, or than we're actually allowed to here in the International Programs Office. And so to get in contact with them, you can just email ISA, so that's ISA for International Student Advisors at queensu.ca. Please do make sure that you have appropriate health insurance coverage. Some of you might have to take out coverage from your home institution. And then we just also encourage you to make sure that coverage is appropriate for you, depending on your circumstances. You may also just want to check to see what kind of clauses it has around COVID as well. Okay, so once you have that, then just encourage you to create a travel and quarantine self-isolation plan, so that you can provide that to the officer at the port of entry, typically at your airport. And actually the quarantine requirements have changed recently, although they do continue to change. So again, encourage you to check the Government of Canada website or your home country's Foreign Office or International Office website for what those are, because we have seen some changes recently as a result of the Omicron variant. So do develop a plan for quarantine self-care. Hopefully you won't need to use it, but it's good to have that in the back pocket. But I think one of the most important things you can do is download the iSent travel app. So this is an app that really has a lot of the relevant information that you need when you're arriving in Canada and Queens, and you can get that on the Queen's University International Centre website. So just to confuse things with the International Programs Office, and there's also the International Centre, or QUIC. So very similar in terms of names, but a little bit different in terms of what we do. And I'll just drop their web address into the chat here, and then you can go there, and that will show you how to download the iSent travel app. So thank you for coming to this orientation. Like I said, there is going to be one tomorrow, and then one the next day. And these sessions are going to cover a little bit about the student experience. So we have someone from the Alma Mater Society. So that's the main undergraduate student society and the opportunities that they provide. And also from ASUS, so that's the Arts and Science Undergraduate Society. So that's kind of a subset, but just for students in the Faculty of Arts and Science. And we'll be joined by someone who's going to be talking about the Exchange Buddy program, which I really encourage you to look at. So these are students who are volunteering their time to help you get acclimated to Kingston and to Queens. And then, like I mentioned, we'll have a couple of sessions in the new year. One of those will be just a little bit more about transitioning to Queens and Kingston and Canada in the context of health and wellness, and then another session about the academic transition, and that will be held by our Student Academic Success Services. So if you haven't already, encourage you to try and find housing. The best person to contact about housing, if you are having problems, is our off-campus living advisor. So I'll just drop their email into the chat. So Adam King is our off-campus living advisor, and he can help you kind of navigate the rental situation in Kingston. So just two more things you have to do that we encourage you to do. One is the Arrive Can app. So Arrive Can, this is an app that's been put out by the Government of Canada, and you'll need to fill in that before you fly. And then there's also an arrival checklist that the International Centre, the QUIC, has developed as well. So there are just a few things to do. A lot of them are things that you would probably have been thinking about doing anyway, but we just thought it'd be helpful to put them into a bit of a list. Okay, so just moving on from the food part of prep, just to talk about enrollment now. So this very broadly is what enrollment looks like at the moment. So some of you are going to be in courses and some of you won't be. If you're not, please don't worry, because we're working with the departments now. So you may be in one course or two courses. We're just waiting for departments to assess your requests and then to get you into courses. So please don't worry about that, and we are going to be working into December with departments to get you enrolled in courses. If you aren't in as many courses as you need, there is also an opportunity when you get here in January to be added into courses as well. But the last date to add winter term classes is January 21st. So you should make sure that you're enrolled in classes by that date, and obviously we'll work with you to make sure that happens. I thought it could also just be useful to put in this March 4 deadline, which is the last date to drop into term and multi-term classes without academic penalty. So if for any reason things are not shaping up so well in a class, you do have to drop that before March 4th. Otherwise, there will be a notation on your transcript. So just bear that in mind, please. And then also winter term classes end April 8th. And that's when they end, and then there'll be an exam period after that. So encourage you not to buy flights home until you know what exams you have and when your exam period is going to end. So for open enrollment, hopefully you can kind of see this map that we've added. There are just a few different options depending on the faculty that is offering the course. So the majority of your courses have to be in arts and science, but you can also request courses in engineering, graduate studies, and commerce as well. And hopefully you received information about how to do all of this. If at any time you need to drop a course, just email us at IPO@queensu.ca with the course you'd like to drop, and we'll take care of that. And then for arts and science, depending on the course that you wish to have added, for 100 and 200 level courses, those are courses we can add in the IPO. And for 300 and 400 level courses, those are courses that the departments will assess directly, so please contact them. So just a couple of notes. Your home university will determine the transfer of your credit. So when you're enrolling in courses, just make sure that you have spoken with the appropriate person at your home university about those courses and gone through any processes you need to, just to make sure that you'll be able to transfer those courses back. Do check your service account to see your schedule and which courses you've been enrolled in. The department may have added you in an alternative, but we'll work with you throughout open enrollment. That is the case. And just as you probably figured out by now, course enrollment is virtual / online. If in the new year anyone is really having any major problems, please do come to the IPO, and one of us will talk with you about what those issues are. We also know that some of you have learning agreements, so we're happy to sign those. We won't be signing those until after open enrollment concludes, so we won't be signing those until after January 21st. So we're more than happy to do them, and you can send them to us electronically, preferably electronically or in hard copy, and then we'll sign them for you. Absolutely. Okay, so hopefully these common questions may address some of the concerns that some of you may have. So a full course load is 5 courses at Queen's. Some students will take 4 courses, but please check with your home university just to make sure that you're taking the right number of courses. Like I said, you can take courses outside the Faculty of Arts and Science, like that infographic showed on the last slide, but you can only take a maximum of 2. So if you're taking 5 courses, then the maximum would be 2. Just the majority of courses have to be in the Faculty of Arts and Science. If your course has a wait list, yes, you can be added to the wait list. So just email the relevant department. If at the end of the ad hoc period you're still on the wait list, please let us know at the IPO. You can enroll in online courses. There are some great courses offered online and aren't offered in person, but we just invite you to consider whether that's going to be the best approach for you, and how you're going to be balancing online study versus in-person study. And you can absolutely request academic accommodations. So you do have to go through a particular process with Queen's Student Accessibility Services, and that process is on their website. If you're having any difficulty accessing that, please do let us know, and we can point you in the right direction. But we're not actually the office that would provide those accommodations, but we're happy to facilitate you and get you connected with the right people. So just a few other notes about courses. So and online courses in particular. There is obviously interaction in online courses, including group work. So just have a think about how that will work if you're doing that work online. Some online activities will take place in real time, but some are recorded. So you'll need to think about again your learning style and if that's going to work for you. And on average, online courses require about 10 hours of work per week in a 3-unit course. Some online courses also have mock exams which take place in Kingston, so do make sure if you're applying for an online course just to see if that's the case in the syllabus as well. So this is not to put you off online course, but it's just to give you a little bit more context in making that decision. Okay, so like I just mentioned, we're happy to sign paperwork for your home university to be a learning agreement, or it may be tutoring scheme paperwork, for example, for folks coming from the UK. But like I said, that will be after January 21st, when the course enrollment is confirmed. It should be obvious, but you can't enroll in courses if they're taught at the same time. The classes aren't recorded, and so unless it's an online course, like I mentioned, in which case some of them will be. So in-person classes typically aren't recorded, and participation is often necessary. So you can't just turn up and try and do an online course and be in an in-person course at the same time, because participation is based on how you engage with the material, not just by showing up. Just maybe a couple of positive things that our profs do leave time at the end of class for you to get to your next location. So typically 10 minutes or so. Hopefully you've kind of done your research about Queen's and you see that we are a relatively compact campus, so it's pretty easy to get from one side to the other side of the main campus, at least within 10 minutes. If you do have any classes on West Campus for any reason, there can be, there is a little bit of a longer walk, but we also have a very efficient and regular bus service that goes from main campus to West Campus. You may also be wondering what happens if COVID-19 peaks again. Like I mentioned, we are monitoring the situation with Omicron just to see what's happening, and the government has instituted some travel restrictions in some countries, but by and large, this new variant has not really changed the picture at the moment. And so we're planning on offering exchanges as normal. If there were anything drastic to happen, in 2020, we did pivot to online learning, and so we are equipped to do that again if necessary. Okay, so I know this is a lot of information, and we will be, like I said, posting a recording of this as well. So we hope it's useful for you, but please don't feel the need to retain absolutely everything right now. And like I said, if you do have questions, you can drop this into the chat or email us at ipo@queenswood.ca. So in terms of beginning your term, your home university may offer some guidance around this as well, but these are just a few things that we think are helpful and we want to flag for you. So one of the first things is just letting your family, so your parents, supporters, caregivers, know that you've arrived safely. They're going to be keen to know, particularly in the context of the pandemic, that you're in Canada and at Queen's safe as well. Like I said, the majority of students won't need to quarantine because of the changes. Well, I should say the current changes to the Government of Canada entry requirements. But please do keep an eye on that and obviously follow any instructions that are provided by the border officials. Once you're in Kingston, we just invite you to check in with us. So you can do that either in person or you can send us an email just to let us know. And also with your home university as well. You don't have to do that, but it's a good way for us to start kind of communicating with you and just so that we know that you're here in the country. We just talked about adding or dropping courses, so please do that as needed, and also apply for academic consideration as needed. So that's things where if you have a particular medical condition, etc., we don't necessarily guarantee that you would get the same accommodations that you would get at your home university, but for the most part you would. But there is an assessment process that you do have to go through. So that's not to alarm anyone or to discourage anyone. I just think it's important to be transparent that we can't guarantee that absolutely every single academic accommodation would be the same as your home university. But it's the chances are that they will be the same or broadly similar. We do invite you to join in orientation programming. So like I mentioned, we have a couple of sessions next January. Depending on the public health situation as well, we're looking at going to a hockey game. So that's an ice hockey game for those of you who maybe aren't familiar. And we're looking at that in early January, but that is contingent on the health situation. So we'll be providing more information about that shortly. And then also taking a campus tour. So the International Centre is offering campus tours, and you can sign up on their website. There are limited numbers, so I would just encourage you to do that if you're interested. And you can also talk to your exchange buddy through the Arts and Science Undergraduate Society, and they can kind of show you around campus, and they might show you some spots that a staff member might not show you on an official tour. Please do send any forms, like I mentioned, learning agreements, touring scheme, etc., to us, either via email, which like I say is the preferred method, or you can drop that into the office as well. And just do download that secure app that I mentioned at the beginning of the session. You should also make sure that you pay the university health insurance policy, UHIP on SOLAS, so that is mandatory for all exchange students. So just make sure that you pay that by the required deadline. And also, obviously, any tuition and fees to your home university. You're not paying tuition to Queen's, you're paying that to your home university, so just don't forget the deadlines there. And just one thing, so obviously you will be coming into the winter. They're forecasting a fair amount of precipitation, so for the most part snow, but maybe a little bit of rain in places. And so you might want to use the bus to kind of get around. You do have to buy a bus pass through the city of Kingston. Like I mentioned, you know, it's unlikely that you'll have to quarantine, but if for any reason that is the case, there is an academic considerations process that you can use through the Faculty of Arts and Science, and you can use this if you can't attend in-person classes due to COVID-19 complications. If you're in that situation, probably the best thing just to reach out to us at the IPO, and we can facilitate that. process as needed. And just remember that classes aren't recorded, so if you, for any reason, would need to quarantine, this means it's not possible for you to begin in-person classes remotely. So in terms of classes, the course structure might be a little bit different from your home university. Queen's courses move quite quickly and have many components. So you might find this to be just a little bit different from the academic expectations at home. So give yourself some time to adjust and make sure to use all the resources that are available to you. One of the best things that you can do is talk to your professors. So go up to them at the end of a lecture or during their office hours and just introduce yourself. And if you have identified any kind of areas of concern, share them. Professors really like to hear from students in office hours because that is time that's set aside for that kind of interaction. And when no one goes to office hours, that is you know, a little bit of a waste of their day. So I just really encourage you to do that if you can. So I mentioned that there are lots of different components in Queen's courses. So obviously there'll be readings, and there are typically regular assessments. So there'll be, you know, maybe kind of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 assessments in a class, and all of them could count towards the final grade, which might be different to some academic structures where you would maybe do an exam halfway through the semester and then another one at the end of the semester. Here at Queen's, there's regular assessment. You'll often be expected to work in a group or on a project as well. And then obviously, depending if you're in sciences, doing labs as well, and for art students, tutorials and seminars. There will be different exam formats as well. Some of them are going to be multiple choice, some of them will be long answer. And so that will vary, and some of those formats may not be what you're used to at your home university. Student Academic Success Services has some good information for international students adapting to the Canadian higher education system and to Queen's specifically as well. So we encourage you to check that out. And so they offer online guides, workshops, and also individual appointments as well. I think the best thing that you can do, speaking as a former international student who did a degree at Queen's, is don't suffer in silence. So if something is not going well, then it's not a weakness to ask for help. It's a good sign of intelligence and self-awareness. Talk to your prof, or you can come and talk to us here at the IPO, and we can give you some guidance. But we know that sometimes problems come up, can be time sensitive. So please just reach out to us and we'll help you as best as possible. Okay, so for supports at Queen's, I just want to briefly touch on academic supports, logistical supports, health and wellbeing supports, and housing supports. So for academic, obviously, like I talked about, we have the International Programs Office. I've mentioned Queen's Student Accessibility Services and also Academic Success Services. For logistics, I've mentioned the International Centre before. And then we do have quite a few different places that you can get non-academic support through student wellness services, for example, for mental and physical well-being, athletics and recreation, and different offices on campus. And then I mentioned earlier the off-campus living advisor who helps with housing. So in terms of accessing health and wellness services, we'll be covering this in a little bit more detail in that session that I mentioned in January. But just to let you know, we do have you know, a really good student wellness services, and the building is right in the heart of campus, and they can help you with doctor's appointments, nursing appointments, walk-in clinics, flu shot, etc. So we just encourage you to access these resources if you need them. And just in case, depending on your health system in your home country, so here at the Queen's at least, so doctor's appointments are for health issues such as minor illness, birth control, sexual health, referrals, mental health assessment, diagnostic testing, medication management. And nursing appointments are for health issues such as allergies, immunizations, blood work, and collection. We do also have a very active Office of Faith and Spiritual Life as well, which is housed in the same building as the student wellness services. And I've mentioned Quick so many times now, you're probably wondering what's so special about it. It's a really great place where international students can gather, or people who are internationally minded on campus. So they do a great job of supporting international students transitioning to Canada. They have those international student advisors, like I mentioned, who are registered immigration advisors and who can just provide that level of information that we are unable to. And they also administer the health insurance plan UKIP that I mentioned that you do have to pay for on Solus. And they also do a great job connecting students to community programs and services. So there are three main resources I just want to bring your attention to. The first is a series of orientation videos that they have posted that go through just a few different areas of transition to life at Queen's. The Arrival to Canada, which has updated information about entering Canada, and then their Student Hub, which covers that and more, so things like working in Canada, finances, and other visa and permit information as well. So please, you don't have to remember all of those links, but just if you Google Quick at Queen's, they should come up. Okay, so I know we're a little bit over the time, so thank you for bearing with us. We're now magically at the end of your semester at Queen's, and we hope that you've had a wonderful time here. So what happens at the end? Just a couple of things we want to draw your attention to. The first one is exams and transcripts. So final exams for winter and full year courses are going to be April 14th to April 30th, and you can find your exam schedule on Solus. Exam times and dates won't be changed, so don't book any travel until you're sure of what your exams schedule is. If for any reason you do miss an exam for some reason, like you become ill, then contact your professor via your Queen's email account. And actually you can find past exams on the Queen's Exam Bank, which is a great service offered by the library. And just to let you know, students whose first language is not English may be granted extra time on final exams by the exams office. And so we provide that information to the exams office, and they'll reach out to you if you get extra time. And then some of you may have questions about transcripts. So we'll automatically ask the Office of the University Registrar to send a transcript to your home university. Just please do note, we're only going to be sending one transcript, and you don't need to order it. But if you do want extra copies, then you are responsible for ordering them, and you can do that online through Solus. We'll only send the transcript if there are no outstanding fees in your Solus account. So please pay any relevant fees before requesting a transcript. And there's typically a little bit of a lag between the end of classes, obviously, and when those grades will be available, just for marking purposes and then verification and everything. So your transcript will not be available on April 30th, or at least it will show what courses you're enrolled in, but it won't show your grades. Okay, so in terms of what's next, just encourage you to mark those important course registration dates in the diary. Please do monitor your Queen's email account. We're trying not to overload you with information and emails, but we do want to be in regular contact with you just to provide information as we think you need it, and hopefully that's useful. Please do check your Solus account, so that's your student online university system account, and also OnQ. So OnQ is our learning platform, and a lot of your profs are going to be posting information there about your courses. And like I said before, if you do have any questions, please just email us at ipo@queensu.ca, and we'll be posting relevant updates and some fun stuff on social as well. So I'm currently on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So thank you so much for coming and attending this webinar. I hope it's been useful, and please let me and Janice know if you have any questions.